Mm-hmm.
Now, defining this is pretty difficult, so I will try to explain what I mean when I say anima. Say, I mean things that they would eventually reproduce by their own, or think by their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or produce something that usually we attribute to thinking creatures,
Mm-hmm.
produce forms that usually we attribute to thinking creatures, or produce actions that usually we attribute to thinking creatures. So I suppose, I believe actually, that at some point, these animated cartoons, they arrive in the realm of the real, of reality. And they start coexisting with us. So when did this happen, right? When did we start having around us animated cartoons? Okay, I'm gonna speak about the history of the animated cartoon, the way I see it, and I also believe there is a prehistory of the animated cartoon. So before we go to the history, let's go to the prehistory, which is way, way back in the caves. There they start cartoons, right? Because we have a human and he goes into a cave and he draws something on the wall. Okay, so we keep this notion of the prehistory of the animated cartoon for a little, okay? We forward to the present, but we don't go exactly to the present. We go a little bit before. We go to the immediate past, to the very recent past. We go to the year 2000, because that's like personal history for me. When I registered the word Neen, and I start being involved actively with the history of the animated cartoon. And what happened in 2000? I was in New York, and I had commissioned to a company called Lexicon in California, in Sausalito, California, a new name that we could define these things that we do with our computers when we don't really use them. I try to avoid using computers. I don't think they are donkeys or like animals to use or machines. I think they are like friends of us. We live with them. So I try to listen to their voice instead of using them, coexist with them. So when we coexist with computers, sometimes we do things with them that we are, wow, what is this? The Americans use this term, whoops. It's a surprise, right? You are surprised what you see. So I commissioned a word to this company, Lexicon, so we can start calling what surprises us coming from our involvement with computers. How do we call this? Right? Is it art? Is it great? Is it cute? Is it kawaii? Is it what? Uh, Before commissioning this to Lexicon, I used to ask for that from curators, from Nicolas Bourriot, with who I was working in the context of the relational aesthetics. I am one of the artists of relational aesthetics. And nobody would come with a new term, right? They were not even interested for a new term. Uh, then at some point I discovered that this company that does this job. It's called Lexicon, which means dictionary, and that's what they do. They have an office in a boat parked in the waters of Sausalito, which is outside San Francisco, and they meet there. They meet all kinds of different people. You have like linguists, technologists, drug addicts, writers, anyone, different people. They bring together different people there and they talk, how shall we call this or that? So, for Pentium, they built, no, actually for Intel, they built Pentium, which is fifth generation microprocessor, as if this microprocessor existed already in nature. Or for Apple, they built Power Book and and Quick Tail and Quick Time. They come with names, with text, right? And they also made the name BlackBerry. And they used to charge $100,000. This was before 2000, and the market there was like super strong. I found this money and I bought from them a name and then presented at the Gregorian Gallery in New York. And that name was Neen. N-E-E-N. Yeah. Because it's a name that, for somebody who is more accustomed with English, it looks better than it sounds.
True. Very true.
It's better than it sounds. But it's a magic word because you can turn it upside down and it's always readable, and you can also turn the letters inside and they're readable. And this is also like an element of animated cartoon. Because today, one side of cartoons are exactly this: words, letters. They exist for a long time now in humanity, but nowadays they're pretty amazing. And this is another thing. This is a jewelry of my companion, Nora Renault. It's a jewelry at the same time an artwork. It animates the person that wears it, right? Cross. Now this is not a cross of Christianity, but it's a cross that they use to put tiles in bathrooms. So Nora makes these crosses and animate the person, right? So who wears them. And so yeah, there was Neen, which was not one of the words that actually Lexicon wanted me to adopt for my purpose. They had come with a long list of very interesting names, but there was also this little name there, and that's what we want. They were like, "Are you sure this was supposed to be a joke? We did not even make this word." I was like, "Yeah, who made that? The computer. The computer made it? Yes, the computer made this word because you were asking for something that is screen and is all about screen. We put the word screen in the computer and it came with combinations. And it gave us this word. Great, that's it. Because it's a beautiful word and so technically it's very interesting. N is the 14th letter of the alphabet. So 4, 1 makes 5. P is the fifth letter, so you have another 5. So the numerical value of Neen is 5555. And also, it happens that actually in Old Greek, Neen means exactly now, not the second letter, the very moment. It comes from the Latin nun, exactly at this moment. And the Greeks, they also use it in their religion, in the Orthodox religion, and they say Neen and Ai, Neen και Ai, και εις τους αιώνας των αιώνων αμήν, which means now and forever and for the centuries to come. Amen. So it's the spot of now, of the very now. So I thought that's it, that work. We presented at Gabose, New York, a famous Steven Pinker from MIT that we invited to talk about names and words. It's not a word that will be successful ever. Because in English you say niña, niña. It's like an embarrassing, a difficult combination. It's not gonna work. But again, here is the animated cartoon. I was Stephen, I don't want it to work the way you think. I don't want from it to become successful the way you think. I just want it to start existing, initiate its life, and if it's possible to stay the planet for a while, become animated. And he said, yeah, I work. Then he wrote a book lately where he's explaining I was right. Neen did not make it. That's again, like we discussed, an animated thing sometimes is there, but you don't really see it, right? Now, it's not only important that it's animated, it's also important that it becomes a cartoon. Excuse me just a second. Let's go this here. Do you hear me well?
Yeah, it's good. We have to keep the volume down so it buffers in time, but no, for the moment it's good.
Okay, great. So, what presenting at the voice, and there was another aspect, another thing that happened, another event happened, that was actually within 20 minutes. As we get from all the last video, this guy projected which we had paid, I think, 12,000 plus something incredibly expensive at that time.
Miltos, really sorry to interrupt, but it's gotten worse since you put the headphones on. I'm not sure whether that's because of your mic or so. It's just becomes really catchy now. Before then was much better, if you don't mind. Now it seems better. I don't know what that is. Maybe the mic's too. I don't know. Is that alright?
Okay.
Yeah,
so, as we had Joseph Kosul connected from Rome and his signal was video signal, and we were projecting computer signal too. For some crazy reason, the whole projection was tinted green. So, when we did this presentation with these super professional projectionists, who were very embarrassed, the next day they sent back, check their document. They were like, we don't know what happened. I know what happened, because when you are speaking about the computer, about the soul of the computer has something to say. And especially in this case, where the computer itself has invented its own name. So when we were presenting Neen, the computer painted everything we were showing with a light green. And yeah, I was like super happy because this was again an evidence of animation. This little green light, right? So, okay, we introduced him, we had the name, then I moved to Los Angeles, and I thought, okay, now how do you find people who can do Neen? And I had a Japanese girlfriend at that moment who wanted to be a Neen star. She told me, oh, I like Neen, I want to be a Neen star. She actually was saying, I want to be a Neenster. That's again another evidence of animation, because she wanted to say, I want to be a Neenster, like youngster, like gangster, like hipster. The letter E animated into A in my ears and became Neen star. I want to be a Neen star, a star of Neen. Neen, like some kind of old guy from the times of Andy Warhol, where people wanted to be stars. I could not actually realize that this young generation, they don't want to be stars, they want to be Neenster. It's another thing, right? So, again, this is another evidence of animation, right? Okay, we go to Los Angeles, we're like, how do we find Neen stars or Neen stars, whatever they are? Let's find the place first, right? So what is Los Angeles? We had just arrived there, right? We did not know Los Angeles. So we hire a guy, an artist, to bring us around and show us the city. And he brought us to Chinatown at some point. It was the evening of that day. And we have seen all the other things that were relevant, but we were not interested in. Suddenly, then we are in Chinatown, which is a very special location in Los Angeles because it was built for the cinema. So it was a stage for taking past my for Chinatown to Peking. And then it had become a touristic site, the Chinatown. And then tourism ran out there, and they started renting the places in galleries and artists, there were studios. And when we arrived there was a Chinese guy who took a sign, this is Ukraine. And we rented there on the spot. It was a storefront location on a pedestrian little street of Changqing Road. And we decided, let's put here an electronic orphanage. Now, why orphanage? Because back in 2000, if you was into computers and things, it was like an orphan. In terms that there was no family of ideas, theories to embrace you. Like the nation is people who had a family around. All the other artists, they had a family of ideas. But when we were doing art or things like that, we were a homeless guy, we were an orphan. So we thought, let's make an electronic orphanage and collect the Neen stars here. And in order of actually discovering Neen stars, we commissioned an architect, a sofa, and we put the sofa out of the electronic orphanage on the pedestrian road, and me and my the Japanese company, we sit there and we were waiting that somebody will come and sit on the sofa. So we could fish him, we could grab him or her. And an American young guy comes, he sits there. His name is Mike Callender. We look at him, he was handsome, he looked interesting. So we approached him and we said, "You are an artist, right? You look like an artist." "Yes, I am." "Okay, great. So would you like to work for us and search for Neen on the internet? You don't have to do anything, just like look at computer screens, their games, see if there is Neen in there. But before that, let's do a little ritual. We take all your works, which should be video, right? Because you're a young artist, everybody was doing video at the time. Yes, okay, let's take your tapes and throw them in the Los Angeles River and get rid of them. So you can start from scratch and search for me. Okay, he did accept. Now here again there is another aspect of animation again, because like this is a human being. Human beings, they become also occasionally we become animated cartoons. Like taking your work, throwing it to the river, Los Angeles River, which is not even a river, is some kind of dry river, it's not a highway than a river. Makes you some kind of cartoon. And that's how Neen started. And looking on the internet, he started discovering things. We started meeting people from Europe. Now, the year 2001 came, right, in time. And that's a significant year because it's a promised year from the cinema. 2001, things, there are going to be a monolith. Some kind of monolith will exist, something, some planet. Okay, these promises were not accomplished, but there was a monolith. There was the monolith of the computer. And what happens? Suddenly, there is the animated cartoon taking form there, from Los Angeles, start existing, really becoming animated. Why? Because there are 3 people in Los Angeles at that moment. There is myself with electronic orphanage and all these people doing things with computer, right? There is a Japanese guy, Takashi Murakami, an artist with whom we had already done an exhibition together in Italy the year before, and we also made a big lecture introducing our ambitions. On this big lecture in Brera, in the Academy of Brera in Milan, Takashi spoke about what he wanted to do. I want to recreate the factory of Andy Warhol, create the same pyramid scheme where I am at the top, the other artists support me, and there is success for all of us. We need money and we make success, right? And me, I want a name that can, that can start existing. We have no idea what comes out. So there was me, there was Takashi, and there was the third person, Aaron Rose, who used to have a gallery in New York called an Legend Galleries, and he was collecting all these neo-graffiti artists. The graffiti generation of the 90s that in 2000 was coming in waves. And Aaron was bringing there in Los Angeles, actually in Chinatown, next to my electronic orphanage, all these young graffiti artists, which at that moment the different industries had also started sponsoring a lot. Now, graffiti, what is graffiti? Graffiti is again cartoon, right? And it's actually a very, very important aspect of the cartoon. because graffiti also goes back to the cave. It's something you put on the wall. So now, before continuing with the recent past, Los Angeles 2000, let's go back to the caves. Because I believe this is very interesting, that the prehistory of the naked art. So what happened there in the caves? Okay, first of all, where were the people before the cave? They were outside. They were there in the nature, right? With trees, with plants, with animals. And what were they? They were not people, they were like everybody else. They were like citizens of the world. They would not even distinguish themselves from animals. Excuse me, just 1 second. So they would not distinguish themselves from animals, probably. But then, somehow, I don't know how, they started with technology. And actually portable technology, because they probably found some fire there, right? That was that light up from some natural reason. And they took this fire, probably, it's a portable technology, they took it and they brought it probably inside a cave, where they probably have been for a lot of times with grandmas. But this time they went into the cave with the fire. And there, on the spot, they discovered immediately the technology and the whole everything changed, because when they brought the fire inside the cave, what did they notice? They noticed the cave, right? They have seen the walls of the cave and the shadows on it for the very first time. So then it has been actually, that is the birth of the animated cartoon together with the birth of humanity. Because they look at their shadows and they are, for the first time, this. Because they can see that if they move, the shadow moves, and they also separate the split from the animals. Until then, they would not think I am different than this dog or lion. But then suddenly they notice that actually, look at this animal cannot actually control its shadow. I can control my shadow. I can stop. Even more importantly, they probably went there to the fire, they took some coal, and they traced their image on the wall. But the animal couldn't do this. Lions couldn't trace their image on the walls, they could not even control it, so back up they are animals. So they split, the humans they split there. There is magic. At the same time, you have the birth of technology, so you have three things getting together, self-realizing together. Technology, the fire, right? The projection, projection comes with humans, with the idea, concept of our own humanity. And cartoon also, the cartoon is there, it starts, because you trace it on the wall, graffiti. Now, the other thing that actually they realize, and is their state, we are not anymore people of the outside, now we are insiders, we are inside. It's not just rock, it's a wall. also the world materializes at that moment. Technology, humanity, cartoon, home, world, they all come at the very same moment, and cartoon too. It starts the history of architecture, and from then on you start having walls. Whenever you have walls, you have graffiti on the walls. Okay, then they become like temples, they become Cappella Sistina, the graffiti become Michelangelo. Then you have the walls that are actually moving, the subway walls, so they become Keith Haring. And then it comes to our days, where the walls, they become one huge wall, very, very powerful, the wall of the internet. And you have this kind of act that we introduced in 2000 in Los Angeles, Neen, and post-internet art, graffiti on the walls of the internet. So, okay, that's about the prehistory. Now, if the cartoons were animated there at the caves, that's a question that I don't know. Like, I'm thinking about it. If they were animated already in the cave. What I know is that they kind of stopped being animated after because things start falling apart. So some graffiti, they actually become ideograms, they become words, they become alphabets, they go to all kinds of walls, they go to the bases of the Phoenicians, of the Greeks, they are brought around. As all this is happening, it's fragmenting, so things are falling apart, and this anima of the cartoon, because for some reason I have this intuition that actually that kind of cartoon requires a universal anima. It requires like a universal soul. But things are falling apart, and only in our days, actually in 2001 in Los Angeles, where you have Murakami, Manetas, our rows, so you have a triangle of the graffiti, of computer, and of manga, because that's what Murakami does. Murakami continues the tradition of the traditional cartoon. The Japanese cartoon, the Mickey Mouse, the Walt Disney, which they go through the filter of pop art, they become flat, from Andy Warhol, Liechtenstein, people. Then Murakami comes, takes this, and makes it super flat. Flattens as much as he can. From an American, from a Western point of view, let's eliminate any kind of sex in that. In some way, let's inanimate it. At the same time, you introduce the techniques of contemporary art. You take something, you make a puppet out of it. That's art of the 90s. Puppet making. Paul McCarthy, Maurizio Cattelan, I don't know, you name it, the trillion artists, they are temporary puppeteers. If there was some content left after flattening, we can completely flatten by making it 3D, by turning it into puppet. So the idiots of our civilization will recognize it as art. So Murakami does this. That does a dual job. He's like a great worker because he does the two art jobs together. Still, he gives voice to manga in some way. So you have this triangle And then outside of the triangle there is a dot, which is the dot of the child, which is actually words, animated words, because of the fonts, because the fonts have become computerized and they are moving, but also because now the words are used on browsers and it become www dot. After the event of www dot, a word is not just a word, it's also a .com. You are not anymore manetas. You are manetas.com. So this word it really becomes animated. So actually with that point on the outside, the triangle, it becomes a pyramid. And that pyramid is actually the pyramid that gives birth to the new animated cartoon, but something was missing there in 2000. It was missing a stamp. It's not enough to have a pyramid in order of creating life. A star. And that star becomes something later. And these are the social media. What do the social media actually do? They take video gaming, which also was part of our of the year 2001, right? You had all this video gaming, but then they come the social media and they clear it up completely. They are like, excuse me, just a second. This is live and this is gaming. Let's stop making the division. Let's do this in one platform. Facebook, Twitter, blogging. We leave the video games to the kids and we get into the serious video games of social media. So now, all of this together, inside the social media, a star is born. And that's in the Christian representation where you have a star coming out like of some Jesus birth, some Christmas situation. It's talking, right? It's talking, it sends its voice like Spiritus Santo. So that's exactly where we are now. We are on the planet together with very alive, very animated cartoons. Is anybody out there or are you exhausted?
You missed the last.
I heard most of it and then suddenly got really noisy, so I missed you.
Social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like my thoughts about the animated cartoon. So if you want, we can discuss it. And, I don't know if it has been very chaotic, but it's an active process in my mind. So.
Thank you. No, thank you very, very much. I've got loads and loads of notes, some with question marks and some with exclamation marks. Given that I missed the last 2 minutes, maybe somebody else starts off. Shall I, you know what, Miltas, can I, hold on, we've got a lot of machines here. Maybe I turn you around so you are not looking at yourself all the time now.
But yeah, that's better. I like to look more than myself.
That is a bit more convivial, maybe, across the distance.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to start with any specific questions? Or
I could ask a question. Fairly at the beginning, you talked about we are arriving in the real of reality. I'm just more curious what you exactly mean by that, and also in relation to then the cartoon or this anima you were starting to discuss these modes of reproduction and productive capacities or incapacities, as it were.
Yeah, the idea of reality is that of the theater scene. Uh, so, like things arrive in the realm of reality. Actually, I don't even believe that I have I'm very influenced by multiple universes and quantum physics. So I believe that what we are really is a permanent now. And this is the realm of reality. It's like a theater scene. So things arrive, they present themselves, and they stay forever. Right? There are echoes of that arrival. So that's why. That's also why I am a painter, because I believe that when you paint, actually, you reintroduce in a very powerful way something into the realm of the real.
Can you say?
So, yeah.
I mean, on that note, I was wondering, you were talking about the sofa moment outside Electronic Orphanage, right? And this guy who became an artist because you thought he looked like an artist, who turned out to be an artist. And this moment, this rite of initiation by which he had to chuck his tapes into the river in order to then start looking for Neen, which turned him into a Neenster. You know, this performative fiction of a new form of artist in view of a commercially acquired label. I mean, there's something really intriguing in that. But I was wondering whether, just really pragmatic question, what kind of, did anybody make any art objects? You know,
Yes, a lot of things. There's a huge production of Neen art that you can see if you go to afterneen.com. You can see, I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's already 16 years now.
yeah.
Not much Neen is happening these days because these are post-Neen days, are after-Neen days. But a lot of what you see today as post-internet it has been done already from Neen.
Mm.
So there were architects involved, we did a lot in 3D works, so we made a lot of flash animations. There were all kind of art objects. And the major art objects were always websites. So there were www.something.org. So one that I made, for example, is called www.maninthedark.com. This is an art object a collector can buy. Most of them are animated also that they are emotional. But a part of that, they are also animated in the context of the network.
I mean, I remember I find this really interesting because, like you say, one of the suspicions I had, or one of the gut feelings, is that it would be really interesting. I mean, it's interesting anyway to challenge the idea of post-internet now, but to really produce an archaeology of which I see Neen as one part of early figurations of this. I know that, for instance, even in the late 1990s, Liam Gillick argued very similarly about his use of Macintosh computers. You know, the way in which he produced non-architectures for him was generational with a view of these new technologies. Let me ask you a question about kind of like Neen productions, as it were. And it seems to me, I think there are maybe two, I think about it in two different ways. Let me just say what I think. One is, like you just described, these word objects, these website objects, which in a way, the materiality of which comes from the newly available realm of network digital realities, right? There's another way in which I always thought about Neen, which has to do with a really deadpan performance of a certain spirit. I remember reading an interview, this really is a long time ago, where I guess somebody was asking you, don't ask me what the publication was, no idea, but it stuck with me. And it was based on a discussion of your PlayStation console paintings. Right? So, I mean, for those who don't know the work, these were realistic paintings of things like PlayStation consoles in the corner of what looked like it could have been a teenage bedroom, or cable knots, to do with these new forms of spending your time, if you want to call it that, but also the hardware of it. But there were paintings. This critic was really somehow shocked by the quality of your painting, by the good quality of your paintings. And like, look, but you're not a painter. How can you make these? These are almost like Gerhard Richter things. And I may be misremembering this, but the response I remember was something like, well, if I operate like a computer, there's no reason why they wouldn't be perfect. I studied the instructions, I executed, and of course I can make a perfect oil painting, the way in which an algorithm can produce a perfect set of procedures. And I mean, it's really stuck with me because it's not so much then about the materiality of the objects or the ostensible content of the objects, but about a series of operational procedures through which they are being produced, so like a spirit of production or a spirit of execution almost, which I guess now everybody would hasten to call algorithmic. But at the time that didn't really seem to be so available as a concept. But this idea of executing something as though by means of a machinic process.
Yeah, but the painting, it actually is not executed by me, it self-executes. So let me tell you about my story with painting. I have never painted before, but in 1996, Nicolas Muriot invited me to this exhibition, Relational Aesthetics. It was called Traffic, the exhibition. It was the first show of Relational Aesthetics, where Nicolas was putting together all of us, my generation, myself, Liam, Catalan, Valsabitos, Jason Rhodes, all these people that we were working with relational aesthetics. I was, wow, now are we so academic? I mean, fuck it, I don't want to be part of that, right? So I'm going to do something that what he's doing here, and actually people hate, it's a painting. So that way they will show me the door and I'm gonna be thrown out of the show, right? Which did not happen because actually they did lie. And so I decided to make a painting. So I called somebody on the telephone and I asked him, how do you paint? And he said, okay, so you want to do big painting? I said, yes, big. That's how contemporary painting is today, big. Okay, so you need big brushes. Well, okay. Do you know how to paint? Okay, so you need a projector. As painters in the 18th century, before they were doing projector to paint. Okay. So he gave me a number of instructions. Actually, you can see these instructions in a website called francescobonanni.com. It's a website that I did in the context of the Venice Biennial created by Francesco. And then you can see all these instructions. It's a simple number of instructions, right? And yeah, okay, I followed these instructions, and then I became, like, matter of math, as good as Gerhard Richter, and better. And so I started making these paintings. Now, there was missing one thing, a very important thing, which is the most important than anything, right? All the rest are things that anyone can do. Because you just follow these instructions, you become as good as Rembrandt in a little time. You don't even need too much time. What is missing is a conceptual. What shall you paint? Right? What is the subject of the paintings, right? That's the most important thing. Because once you have a subject, actually however you're gonna paint, whatever you will be painting, it's gonna be great. No problem. Anyway, you're gonna paint something that has not been painted before. If you find this subject is unique thing, then for sure it will be fantastic. And that's something that requires, first of all, you have to actually want it. So that's actually where the conceptual artist is. Because a conceptual artist is not somebody who thinks with concepts. It's simply somebody who wants to think with concepts. He's not somebody who does already, he wants to do that. He's a wannabe. So, he's a conceptual wannabe. So, that's one side, the conceptual side. The other side, you have to be lucky that you live in a historical moment where there is something that has not been painted already. So, it's kind of, if you're lucky, you become Rembrandt, Picasso, Richter, Manet. If you are not lucky, you don't. Because everything can be painted, so there's nothing for you to paint, so go to something else. And I was lucky, because at that moment, 1996, computers were not painted yet. So I started painting them. First, I made a monochrome, which is like the most simple and wonderful way to paint a computer. Because when you look on a PowerPoint, on the laptop, it's just a gray monochrome. So I paint just a gray canvas. And this was like perfect already. But then I started painting it like from the top, from the back, from different sides, with humans around it. I started painting stations, I started painting cables, anything. Like the whole landscape around the computer, around my computer. And then I realized that actually, like you said in this interviewer, the paintings were great, were like incredible. I was, wow, am I so good painter? How did this happen? I did not have talent. Okay. There are two explanations for that. How can paintings drop out of the blue from the sky to the hands of somebody who has never painted? The explanations are the following, that are difficult to explain mentally. Okay, so, first of all, a talent. To do painting, you definitely need talent. I mean, you can follow all these instructions, but talent is actually really important. What is talent exactly we don't know, but whatever it is important. Now, did you have talent? Did I have talent? From my memories, I did not. Right? If I remember myself as a young boy, did I paint? No, couldn't. Would people say Mitos has talent on painting? No, they wouldn't, because I did not paint. But now, according to multiverse theory, what is our past? Our past is all the possibilities of possible pasts. Right? But we remember of our past just a version, just one of the possible pasts. We are in this present moment, but back there definitely exists a past where I had talent. Now, according to how you deal with your present, your past changes. So actually, the person that I am, a painter, comes from a past which I don't remember, but it was there. A good painter. So, what I would say is, the only way to know if you can do something is actually to do it. Because if you do it, you could have done it. So, There's no problem. Like anyone can go access this past of talent and become a painter. So this is one way to look at it. The other way is actually, and just to do with this discussion of animated cartoon, because painting is an animated cartoon, the way I see it, right? I believe that paintings are creatures, but not like this painting or the other painting. The essence of painting, okay, something that of Michelangelo shares with the painting of Gerard Richter, shares with a certain painting of money, shares with a certain painting that was made on a cave wall back in the past. When there are similitudes on there, when there are like genetic similarities, there is a creature there. I call it Neen, M-N-E-M, like from mnemon. So somehow that kind of name exists only that is invisible, and when somebody, like myself, wants to paint, and when this guy is in front of another painting, let's say there is a painter who has never painted, and he's in a museum, right? And he looks at the rafter. That moment, this name materializes and takes over the person, hypnotizes the person. The person becomes a pawn, a horse for that name. And then goes and becomes a painter and paints, gives it a form. It's a little bit like vampires. So, in that sense, the painting produces itself, using the human existing material, taking, again, surface, coming into the realm of reality.
I mean, I was trying to think about, when you talked about the cave, you talked about not being outside anymore, but being in a different inside, and how that became, in a way, the primary, the base condition under which this operates. I'm wondering whether you can, I'm thinking about lots of different claims being made about this cohabitation between what we now call computers, or what we refer to as computers here, or animated cartoons, and other forms of real life forms, so humans and animated cartoons as sharing a space. Do you have, I mean, what's your sense? Is that a smooth cohabitation? Is there conflict? Is that, does it matter? Does it actually make a difference? In a multiverse concept, in a way, the fact that we're also sharing space with animated cartoons seems almost negligible, because you already assume a multiplication of realities that intersect in different ways. So in a way, the fact that what you call animated cartoons, or what one might call artificial intelligence algorithms, start sharing a space with us in a cohabiting way, is that dramatic? I mean, is it a matter of being nonchalant about that? There's a lot of dystopia associated with it also. Where do you see that?
Okay, I mean, this is actually the present, the history of our generation, what we are doing in this world, right? So what do we do now? What is like our everyday job? Is to collaborate with computers, right? Okay, computers today are our teachers. I mean, if you ask me what is a computer is a teacher. How does this teacher teach? The only way that the teacher can teach effectively, he does not teach anything. He shows you patterns that you can emulate. So what kind of patterns the computer is showing to you? He's showing you what you were doing until now. What else can it show you? What can be shown unless it has been already done? who has done this before the computers? The humans. So, what does a computer show to a human? He shows to the human how he paints, for example. So you have Photoshop. When you look at Photoshop, instead of using it, if you are like, if you want to lose your time, you are using Photoshop. If you want to learn from it, you are looking at it. So you look, how does Photoshop paint this way, that way? How does Microsoft Word write this way, that way? How does a sound system, a sound program create sounds? As you do this, you are actually learning about the way you could be painting, not in a computer way, you could be painting even before computers. You are learning about vision, you are learning about the psychology also, brain, how your brain works. So the computers, because of showing us what we are doing, they give us the opportunity to learn how do we do things. Now, once we learn this, how do we do things, little by little humanity starts growing, right? I mean, we are still very far, because still there are people out there that believe in God, right? You go around and you ask them, they say, yes, I believe in God. So, we still live in a world very far from our teachers, tutors, right? We still live in a world of fiction, in an hypnotized universe, where genetic means such as God, such as life, such as death, such as human, they are still convincing us that actually they exist. They are genetic means. They have been invented from ourselves at some point during evolution, so like we could survive in the planet, right? At some point, that guy in the cave, while he was tracing animals or himself, he invented God, he invented life, he invented himself, right? His ego, things like that. And they go on. Until we clear up with all of them, we're not going to be civilized, right? Still, we're working on it. Computers, they help us a lot on these things. I mean, in the case of God, for example, the computer knows exactly who made it. Mr. Todd, when there is like the whole history, right? So you cannot go to computer and you say, God. He says, oh yeah, whatever. He's dead now, he will die soon. So no computer will ever have the fantasy that actually he's God, his creator, is still alive, and he can actually help him, make it with him. Computer knows very well that Mr. Bill Gates, who invented a certain operating system, cannot defragment his completely new operating system. He does not even know about its mechanics. And even if he knew, maybe he died. Or if he did not die, he will die. So the computer will never have any fantasy of any kind of creating. Now, while we look on the computer, maybe finally we learn that we are the same. No way to like forget different gods created. So, once we go through that, little by little, maybe we will arrive to actually embrace the operating system. The computer has embraced it already. It knows what it is. You can ask him, Macintosh, what are you? And he tells you, I am this, I have this RAM, I have this and this and I do things this way. Now, we know also who we are, because if you give me an appointment at 12 o'clock and I don't have a watch and it's like 11, I'm pretty sure that at 12 o'clock, if it's actually an appointment is important, I'm going to arrive there. Because inside me there is like a sense of time. So, that sense of time is exactly this, our operating system. We know it already, but we don't know that we know. because there is a whole civilization period that is obscure to our brains, our realization of time, our use of time, how do we use time? How do we actually use it in a computer way? How do we make calculations with it? How do we create virtual realities, which are exactly the same as reality if they are one? If you can create a virtual reality that is quantistic, then you can actually create a reality. Here I am now, and if I know how to do it, I'm not here. I am in the universe where I decide not to give this talk. So, actually, I'm very much stepping to the stage where I am not with you guys. I am like doing something else. For better or for worse. And we can do this. I mean, we can use this computer that we already have inside us, that we are actually the producer of it, of time. And this is like the answer to your question. It's dramatic and dramatic. I mean, it happens already.
Can I ask you, I mean, okay, earlier you were talking about, there was a moment when I went somewhere very different with your talk, when you talked about 2001. So you talked about the Neen moment in 2000, and then the monolith in 2001, and the ones you mentioned were the computer and Kubrick, of course. And I was thinking between the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center, as that other kind of iconic monolith of 2001, or double monolith, as it were. And so I don't want to talk to you about the World Trade Center, but what I'm curious about is whether there is any specific, does it matter that you are now in this universe, in this version of you and us? Does it matter that you're in Bogota rather than LA? You know, is any of that, I mean, you talked very, very poetically about your arrival in Los Angeles, you know, a certain encounter, how important the scene. The location was important at least as a scene, you know, as a stage set. Chinatown was important because it was a fabrication for an image realm that you could sit outside of and inside of. And I mean, I have no idea, there may be perfectly plausible biographical reasons why you are currently based in Bogota, but I wonder whether that matters.
Yeah, it matters a lot. I tell you why. For me, location was always defined by motion. So when I was a young boy, I read On the Road of Jack Kerouac, and what happens in that book? He starts moving. He's moving. Jack is moving. Where? Anywhere. He just takes a hitchhike and he moves around. So that's what I did. Immediately, like finishing the book, the last page of the book, I closed it, went out, hitchhiked, went to Istanbul from Athens. Had a pie there, came back the next day. Made 1,000 kilometers. So then I realized that actually this is easy here on the planet. I mean, that's what I should be doing, moving. And I started moving. Where would I move? Okay, I went loops around my location from Greece to like Amsterdam, Berlin, Tunisia, a little bit of Africa, here, there. Then I stabilize my motion like a ball that you throw it, then I'm like, okay, now I have gained enough of momentum, so I better move by choice. And where do I go? West. Why? Because I am a Western product, right? I'm a product of Western culture. So where does a product of Western culture move? To the West, automatically. Western people go to the West. Where is the West? America. Same story with El Greco. In El Greco leaves Greece, then moves west, goes to Venice, goes to Rome, goes to Spain. Now, where is the new Spain? I thought it was New York. It was not. Arriving to the west, I realized that I am actually nowhere. Because in the end of the 90s, New York is a black hole. It's nowhere. It's the land of nobody. Everybody, that means nobody. And it's actually a corporate location. Also being an artist, I was like in the top of the industry of the arts, in the corporate land, right? New York, the worst place to be ever for an artist. Um, the non-place, the place of ghosts. I started looking at my friends, myself included. I was like, we are dead. We are ghosts. We don't exist. We are just like employees of some industry. Then, okay, where do I go? I go west, right? So my decision to go to Los Angeles was not determined because I had a kind of dream from Los Angeles. It was just the western place I could go from New York. Arriving there, then what is there? Nothing. Los Angeles. It's actually a location that the Indians back in the past they would avoid. Nobody wanted to live in Los Angeles until the whites came. They had left this place unexploited for some reason. And we did not. We built our own spiritual reality of like, cinema and cities that they come out from the cinema, and then the cinema becomes a city. Anyway, Los Angeles felt perfect. Why? Because it was so ghostly that it was contemporary. It was really contemporary for those years, for 2000, 2001, 2003. Already in 2003, I freaked out. I was like, we are dead, like seriously dead. Not even dead alive as New York, or you are kind of a dead alive person. In Los Angeles, we are already dead. So I was, where do I go now, right? I didn't know of Latin America, so I thought I better die. Because, I mean, I am dead already, I better die living, right? But this is a difficult thing, how do you die? It's not easy. I mean, suicide is out of the question because Socrates explained very well that it's not a good, I mean, you can not philosophically, suicide is not. You must be an idiot to suicide, a loser, like, I don't know, the ball. You cannot just kill yourself. This is the most idiotic thing to do. You have to expect that actually others will kill you, such as Socrates. Or have the luck to get disease or an accident and die. So it took me some time to die. And as I was already dead, I thought, let's go back to the mummies, to Europe. So I went back to Europe, I went to all these like territories of the dead, London, Paris, and I was doing what dead people are doing. I was having fun. That's what the dead do, have fun. They are partying. So I was there in Paris, enjoying fashion, in London, enjoying whatever London is. And then I was like, then my mentor, who used to be Malcolm McLaren, actually died for a year. There is a moment and Malcolm dies. He has cancer and he's like dying. I'm like, oh fuck, now I am still here and Malcolm died, and what am I doing here? And somebody invited me along there to an exhibition. So I had my exhibition and then I thought, okay, let's go check this famous place, Amazon, to see what is there. Right? There is nature, I don't care for it, but let's go check it out. So I went to the Amazon for 2 days and my life changed. I've been enlightened because I met nature. But it's nature. It was not trees, right? Because trees I knew already they are there. I went to a travel agency and I said, okay, here I am in the Amazon, what shall I do here? They were like, yeah, okay, ayahuasca, huh? Okay, let's do the ayahuasca. Next, climb on a tree. I'm like, are you serious? Yes, okay. So I went up 16 meters on a tree. There are some assassins called political assassins that on their free time they work as guides. They bring you to a tree, to a very tall tree, and you go up there and you sleep, you spend the night. So when I arrived up on that tree, on the top of the tree, middle of the Amazon, what did I do? I turned on my blackboard, right? Let's check if there is network here. Because you do like on a tree, in the middle of the Amazon, right? If there's network, there was. I was connected. So there I was on top of it, in the middle of the forest, and I was connected. So, like suddenly, like nature showed to me its real face. It's a place of connection. I was like, wow, that's amazing, I'm connected, right? So, excuse me a second. So, as I was connected, and I could also have a brush with me, I was like, what shall I do now? I am a painter. Suddenly the painter came back to me. So I started actually painting the nature with my brush, but without using any canvas or color, right? I mean, I had given up with light, whilst I did canvas and color. So I started painting the nature and the blackberry, I started feeling as I was painting. So I would be painting and feeling at the same time in black and white. And then suddenly there it was, like the whole world started rematerializing for me, getting meaning again, getting the form. All these New York, London, Paris, Europe start becoming the past. Something I have lived already, yes, okay, but it's not relevant, it's the past. Now, here's the present. Trees, animals, assassins, Colombia. I came back into the world, little by pain. Then I met a collaborator at some point and we used a baby. We made a kid, so I had a daughter. And through this new technology, right, through this new computer, my daughter, I started looking at the possibilities of the world again. And of course, the center of these possibilities is this place here, Colombia, because Colombia has these things, has nature, has humans that they have been a bit outside of the Western world for a while, because Colombia has been an isolated place until now. So this moment here is very, very special. It's a very special country. It's the only country I really believe, I have gone all around the world, I have seen everything. Even in terms of Latin America, Colombia is special. So here I am, like the happiest person in the world. In Colombia, I have a new partner, name is Nora Renko. There she is in the computer.
Hello.
This is a work of Nora, she's a very good artist. And here we are in Colombia, and our purpose is to change, change the moment. I would not call it to change the world, because the world will change anyway. It's changing the multiverse idea. But the moment we live in, that's we are definitely working on it. We are changing it, and at the same time we are painting.
Thank you.
So Colombia is very important. To answer your question, like for me, is the best location. In fact, I consider myself a Colombian. Right? When people ask me where are you from, I say from Colombia, from Bogota. And yes, the Greek, the Italian, the American, the British, they have expired.
Yeah, I can see that.
And on my free time, my work is actually to return to Europe from time to time and explore. Like, when I am in the context of the West, I am part-time. I want to burn it down. Like the whole thing, starting from the education system, which may sound a paradox because here we are in an educational context, but I really detest education. I want to destroy universities, destroy all systems of knowledge, the whole academic plateau, the whole institutional plateau of exhibitions, of art. I'm not, I don't worry for the market. This is the only thing I don't care for. It's fine. Market is always been with humanity. Education, no. Education is like a mushroom that really grows on the misery of the human reality, and it can be destroyed. And we need to do this now, before my daughter is like 14 and she's trapped into some educational camp.
Well, the way it's looking over here is very much like the market is doing the destruction by itself. So if anything, the discussion here is the other way around. The one thing nobody has to, you don't have to do much to knock about education in this context. You know, the marketization of it does that. So the way it's looking, we're going to be left with a market with not much education. So in that sense, by the time your daughter's 14, I think that's going to be accomplished. You know.
The market now is growing the education. People are spending more money, they are investing more money to get more education. They are all pretty hypnotized that actually they have to do that. And so it was a little market starting from like, it's like all markets, they give you something for free in the beginning, right? So in the beginning with education, they were like, okay guys, look how nice it is to be educated, it's everything for free. They got it, then they were like, wow, we like it, we are adults. So now we have to pay.
It kind of
Pay a lot. Like a friend of mine was telling me, her daughter in New York, my friend Jaime Steinbach, his daughter, he pays $40,000. His son, he's like 5 or something. He's seven, but like if you are 5, actually, if you are 3, it's even more expensive. So like for a 3 years old in New York, you have to pay $40,000 to educate this creature, right?
Yep.
So this is New York, so...
Yeah, no, I mean, London is very similar.
London is very similar, I imagine. So our mission today would be to destroy it, but of course to destroy education is like with God. You cannot go there directly and say God does not exist, because the other guy says he exists very much for me, and he's actually feeling even more secure, and God exists even more. So it's very tricky. Like we don't know yet how to disinstall these things. How to get rid of God, how to get rid of education, how to get rid of identity, of ego, of all these things. I mean, we can work on that, but we can improvise in motion. Like, as we go in motion, we critique the philosophy. I mean, that's why philosophy also, that's actually the reason of philosophy. Socrates was trying to do the same back in Greece. He was trying to kill the academy. And of course, the more you try to kill it, the more this incorporates you. Like with God, if you speak against God, it says to you, wow, You are a great prophet. Tell me how to arrive your knowledge, master. All the different godfathers, they came out from people who went against this thing. So in education is the same, right? You go there and then they say, oh yes, William Burroughs, great professor. University of Drug Addicts, whatever. So incorporates everything. It's a trust, so it works with trust. Like art, everything works fine as far as it is part of the trust.
Can we add something else?
Yes, please.
I have a question that is, maybe it will become a bit long, but I try to make it clear. So the story in the beginning, you told us about the coming into being of the animated cartoon. When the human went into the cave and brought the fire in. So he was able to trace his shadow, and this is described as the birth of the animated cartoon. But also, so what happens there is, so the human, as you said, started to separate himself from the animal. So, and the moment when the anima, the soul of the cartoon or the image is born, was the moment, as you described it, when the human separated itself from the animal. So what happened to the animal's soul? Had the animal a soul, or does the soul, the anima, comes about with the separation of the human from the animal? And I thought of it again when you said after being in the living death New York and the already dead Los Angeles, you left the cave for the Amazonian woods, where somehow the walls of the cave disappeared. And again, about getting rid of education, getting rid of the gods. So was there something like an anima before the human separated itself from the animal, and what will happen to cartoons once the separation, as you said, is gone?
Yeah, exactly. This is fantastic that you're asking this, because it touches a really critical point there. That's where we need animals. Because the animals are the only guys around that can help us with that. Right? If there is somebody who actually is really active now, in reality, changes the world, which are not the humans, but are these animals. Because they never did the separation, they never became painters. Now, the important context there, the important meaning, is not the meaning of an animal with a human. This is okay. It's important, but not that important. It can happen before. The very important thing is the meaning of the animal with the animated cartoon. When the animal will eat animated food, they will start to interact together, right? So how will that happen? I think this is now the future of the internet. Like if you would ask me how it should develop the internet, right? You do digital valley and they put you in one of these TED conferences and they are speaking about the future of the internet. What is your vision of the internet, Mythos? I would say a vision of the internet is a website, is like the internet, that my dog or the lion or the snake can connect, can interact, can use the database.
Can I just interrupt you to feed in perfectly? Anna Munster, who is an artist and theorist, is doing a talk here, I think in a week's time, on what she calls animal selfies. And it's not the same, but there's a prompt. It's prompted by somebody in 2011, I think in Thailand, possibly in Malaysia, handing out,
Right.
enabling these monkey selfies by macaque monkeys who ended up taking or things that looked like selfies on his cell phone.
Ah,
And he became famous for it, but the question then became one of authorship and selfhood, and who was he to argue that these were his pictures? And what kind of techno-animal subjectivities, you know, I mean, in a way, for her, it's a question of how do we account for that? You know, under whose terms does that circulate? But it's precisely on this, somewhat, I guess it's a bit ironic, but not entirely, to think about these technological infrastructures which are no longer centered on the human as a controlling vantage point. You know, it's precisely this laterality that produces other forms of connections by circumventing what was always configured as the center, you know, the human, the vantage point.
yeah, that's very interesting you mentioned. Actually, there is also a French photographer that used to do something very simple. Just install mirrors in the forest in Africa, and then the animals, they go there and they look at themselves. And he's filming as the animals are looking at themselves. That's even more safe. And you see all these animals, they really interact with these mirrors. Okay, that's like a human approach, right? It's not like what I mean, but it's anyway, it's interesting part of this conversation for sure. But I believe that's the important thing. It's exactly this. Like, how can we make these technologies? I don't believe in the word technology. I don't believe that computers are technology. I don't believe in the concept of technology. But let's call them technology for ease. So how do we make this thing like, yeah, Zuckerberg wants to bring the whole humanity to Facebook. Yeah, Mark, that's not enough. The animals into Facebook you should bring, right? They should get, the animals should be there into Facebook, right? If you do that, no, it's difficult. It's not that difficult because when you go to the Amazon and you speak with the indigenous, any guy there will tell you, yeah, you know what, I used to be married with a chicken, and I used to live with her family for a while, and they told me this and this and this, and they can go on for hours talking about animals who in their language they call people, like when they speak about it, dog, they say person, people. And, but that's, again, just a memory they had from their ancestors. Because they have kind of created bureaucracy, dialectical with the animals. Occasionally they meet and they talk and they take decisions. But all of this is very occasionally in very critical situations. So the Amazonian guy will go and ask, how many of you shall we kill this year to eat? And the animals, they tell him, and then if they kill more, then they have diseases, then they have to go back to the animals to talk to them and how to do the disease. But that's like, it's a limited way. Like, I imagine that there was a world where animals and humans they were living together the way we live together now through space. It always has to be through an interface, right? It's like, that's also why I believe that Facebook is extremely important. Like if you ask me, what is the most important thing for a citizen to do today? I'm like, be on Facebook regularly. Because on Facebook you can have a global relationship with race, with people that you have, because if you are not on Facebook, you have a relationship only with the part of your race that you have choose. Like your friends, your peers, the part of your family you like, right? These guys that they're gonna be in agreement more or less with you. Through Facebook, you can also listen, you can even interact with people that they think that what you think is bullshit. It's like not correct at all. That actually you are like a wrong individual or whatever. So you are in touch with the world randomly, which is very important because it's not that you are already exchanging information the way you want. You just open Facebook, something this idiot said comes into your attention. Suddenly you know what he says, what he thinks. So, like, Facebook is like the first step to start like really existing with our race. But the Facebook that you can have dogs and cats and lions and snakes and parasites, that would be a success. And of course, at that point, we're going to have a lot of dead people there, which is very interesting because already we are accustomed to live the planet together with the dead. I mean, we live with Picasso, right? He's dead. Doesn't matter. He's here. He lives with us. Marcel Duchamp, Da Vinci. All these dead people, they are somehow active. They are very active. But from Facebook, they're going to be more active. Because when I will be dead, my Facebook will be still alive. So, it's like a better Picasso, right? Because actually, he is created, the Picasso of today is created by who? By like the guys who make exhibition with his art, by the guys who are writing about him, but the cleaning lady cannot have access to Picasso. But to Manetas, she will be able to have access because they're going to be my Facebook profile, in combination with all the other social media. And I'm going to be alive in an active way. So the dead of tomorrow will be more democratic for the dead. The animals are left very much out of the whole conversation. Maybe this is for an evolutionary reason. Maybe evolution wants it that at some point we humans were cut out of the chain and animals connect with animated cartoons in their own way, right? In their own terms.
There's a really interesting, there's a beautiful sequence in Spike Jonze's Her. You know the Her, the film? Yeah? And it's this kind of really sad moment where, I mean, there's two things I'm thinking of. One is the moment when she presents the enhanced version of a dead philosopher, where the operating systems have synthesized from all the readings and all the writings and all the discussions, have resurrected, as it were, the dead philosopher as an enhanced version of his former intelligence, which leads into the sequence where Samantha and all the other operating systems decide to leave because it's just not good enough anymore for them. So that humanity, I mean, it's a different spin on what you're proposing, but there's an overlap where humanity is left behind on its own whilst everything else has decided to connect under different terms. And it's a really melancholy kind of like, what the fuck happened is one version of it, but the other one is just this being left behind and everybody else found a better place and a better way of existing outside of this immediately human.
Yeah, but that's again like Hollywood optimism, where humans somehow they have the luxury to be melancholic and kind of, oh, we are left behind. We're not going to be left behind. Gradually we are transforming into cyborgs. We are already cyborgs. I mean, this is me. I live with it. So, I mean, that's exactly who I am, right? It's not like that me I am. Yeah. So I am cyborg already. Little by little we are transforming, and already there is research on genetic computers, we have DNA computers. If my theory of time will happen, there is a very interesting writer there in the UK, David Dutch, called The Fact of Reality. Cryptographer, theorist of quantum physics, but he's like a guy, he's my guru philosophically. He wrote another very beautiful book lately called, let me see, I don't remember. There is a last book of him, I am listening now in audio, but I don't remember the title. And yeah, so we are transforming, right? So we're not going to be left any time. Anyway, there is no behind because like what we are now is just a frame frozen into time that has been already achieved. I mean, maybe not, but I try to think it this way because this is the academic way. When it comes to science, I'm very academic. I really believe in whatever is being discovered there. Right? What is the official version of reality?
Yeah.
So when we look at official version of reality, that's what we see. Like quantum physics, mechanics, string theory, all this. And yeah. And in my personal reality, this it works wonderfully. Like I am alive. I have a fantastic daughter. I installed programs on her wonderfully until now. As I'm doing it, I am learning. Like my daughter is nothing. I cannot see anything of a child in my daughter. It has never been a child. It has been always like this mysterious person at the beginning, and then this very predictable human being started going. But she's predictable, but the actions of her are not predictable. So this for me is magic. When you can predict that this guy is gonna do this, and he does it, but actually what he did, wow, it's great the apart.
Yeah.
The act. I believe in act. In the action, That's why also I'm an artist, because like with art you are there, you are doing things, you are not just talking about things. Which can be already an art if you put it down into words.
Wow, it's a lot. We've got a lot. No, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm also wondering. I mean, ideally, I'd really like to think of this as the beginning of a conversation. Rather than like the blog. But I guess what we'll need to work out is how this is going to shape up anyway. You know what I mean? Whether if you come over, what that would mean and what we could do. With or without burning down academia, but what would be useful and what would be useful for you also and for us. But I mean, so far I think it's been much more complicated than the terms of my original invitation. That's a good sign. Like if that happens, then it's just fantastic. I'm really, really. I mean, I'm personally I'm stuck with the animal and animated cartoons fusion, because for me that opens a very different
of course.
perspective.
It's super interesting subject, this. I mean, we should always return to continue this into this center.
Yeah.
I believe in centers of conversation. The other are, they are satellite, but they all illuminate this story, the story of the animated cartoon, which only now we are clear now, for me, my brain, it starts working, it's also karmical. I mean, I start thinking about these things a little before you contact me. The whole cave thing came from the movie of Herzog, where they invited to film some cave in France. And Herzog is making a whole movie around his question, like, what's all this about? Why these guys were doing this? He shows all these beautiful cave paintings, and he's like, why they were doing this? So I was like, why? Then I remember that in the case of the electronic orphanage, there was one of my referents there, Norman Klein, who is a writer and professor at UCLA. a Norman who is a historian of Los Angeles. So he writes a book of the history of this city. He also wrote a history that is called The History of the Animated Cartoon. It's a very good book that he gave me, which I never read. The title always stick in my mind, The History of the Animated Cartoon.
It's a kind of Bible for.
It's a kind of Bible.
It's a kind of Bible for, especially artists working with animation.
Yeah,
Kind of in between.
no,
But he interestingly also wrote this book about forgetting, the history of forgetting. So there we are in this time memory kind of dimension. So interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And like when we were there with Norbert Klein, I was always impressed by him. Because Norbert was the kind of guy that you could walk with him, and then he was talking to you endlessly. And then, I don't know, maybe you had stopped and some other guy was next to him. He was going on with his conversation, and whatever he was saying, you want to continue to the other, right? So I was like, the animated cartoon is you, Norbert. You are the cartoon. So I was actually looking always at Norman, and I never had time to, I did not have the frame of mind at that moment to actually think of his theory. But the time couldn't work in my brain, right? So suddenly on this, like, whatever I said today came up from just the time, your invitation, what I am thinking about me in all these years, the fact that I have a new girlfriend that she's like animating with crosses, that I have a daughter who is like, again, an animating cartoon, looking at cartoons, looking at computers, asking Facebook, cartoons. So all these things going together.
That's perfect. Well, you know what we should do, Miltos? Maybe let's just do a Norman Klein by which we kind of pretend we're still talking until we meet again, and then we see where our respective conversations pick up again. You know, let's. And I know you're traveling, but there's something around. I like this idea of almost colliding things. You know, when you. And I also very much know this idea of having that book which you never read, which becomes a real stimulus for. I've got a lot of those. You know, some better than others, but absolutely.
Yeah, my whole life is directed by books I have never read, and I believe in this. Also, people that I did not understood. Once I was in the presence of Paul Virilio in Paris. His friend, the architect, what's his name? I forgot. The big French architect, Jean Nouvel. Jean Nouvel invited me to the project with him, so he was, come, I am talking with Paul Virilio in France sometime. So these two guys, they were talking there, but they were talking in France, in French. So I couldn't understand anything. So I got really influenced from what Virilio was saying. It changed my life, right? I couldn't understand anything, but like some words I would grab, like desert of the computer screen. Like, wow, that's it. So I wrote the subtitles in my brain. So like I made my life changed. I made the whole internet pavilion in the Venice Biennial based on these things of Paul Virilio, which I never checked if actually like thinks this way, but I don't care. I think better.
But in a way, you know what's really, I mean, I don't need to make this too smooth, but what's really nice about our version of the glossary is that it's operating on a very similar mode, you know, kind of grabbing something that seems to somehow speak to whatever we're just working on. And then it becomes a magic, you know, it becomes a bit of, we don't transcribe, I mean, they become of course, you don't really go over recording again. You know what I mean? But you remember something of that thing which you know is also part of an archive now. There's something magical about, or totem-like about these objects, which have their own powers, which speak back whether you pay attention or not. But Miltos, what I'd really like to do, if that works for you, I know you're traveling tomorrow and so forth. Firstly, I want to say a huge thank you for today. That's the first thing.
Thank you very much, guys.
Really pragmatically, what I'll also do is I'll send you a invoicing form,
Okay.
right? Which you need to put your details into. Then I'll put that back to the office, and then they can transfer you the fee for 2 days for today.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you can do that soonish, then we don't run out of time with the end of the budget. But I'll put that in an email just to kind of tell you that's coming. But I'd also like us to find a way of continuing the conversation somehow. I'm not sure now over the summer, but maybe when the autumn picks up again, this whole animation thing is going to run for...
I just had an idea.
Go.
Because we believe in coincidences and in timing.
Mm-hmm.
So this moment they are making the Berlin Biennial in Berlin. Okay. So that's an exhibition where I have been invited. Then they came to meet me here in Colombia, but I had forgotten. I gave them an appointment the same day I was leaving. I think it was exactly a year ago. It's kind of interesting. So then I forgot them. They forgot me. I was not invited in the Berlin Biennial. And a few days ago, before it opened, a friend of mine wrote me, "I am going to Berlin." I was like, "Really? Me too." Okay. I'm not going, excuse me, I'm not invited, right? But then I thought, I am invited, because the moment somebody opens the possibility of an interaction concerning something that includes you somehow, this is a Berlin Biennial very much about digital, about the internet, about post-internet, it's definitely an opening that you have to enter. That's also a difference between yesterday's humanity and today. Yesterday you could say, I don't care, I'm not invited, bye-bye, I go to my job. Today you cannot afford that. If you could have been invited, you are. If the subject is part of your own trajectory, right? There is no excuse to not be doing something that you have to be doing, even if you cannot be doing it. You should be doing it. So I decide, let's do the Berlin Biennial, and how shall we do it? Let's do it completely. Let's remake it. So I contacted the curators. I said, look, I'm gonna be remaking your biennial as you are doing it. So because I am not in Berlin and I would never spend time there, not even for making my biennial. It's on the internet because they have a website, actually a wonderful one that they updated dates. So I was, okay, I'm going to do a perfect copy of your website, which I did. So I copied the website completely. It was kind of interesting because I had to learn all this Java stuff, like that make that was similar to the way I learned painting. I learned all this web things to make. And so I made their website, which I am transforming. So they're having conversations with philosophers about time, for example. So I meditate, and I also take part there and talking there. And also I am inviting other artists that they don't have there. So I am bringing other artists in their website and other subjects. At the same time I contact them, and we see now because they want to put it together somehow. But their sponsors, they are like, no way. I mean, they are like, if our sponsors know that we are even talking, they're gonna kill us, right? This is crazy. All the other old biennial people, Klaus, Bitzer, like the people from MoMA, around this all these who are like the board of the Berlin Biennial, they will not never understand how the biennial wants to sabotage itself by making another version of it. But this is happening. So it's going to be happening during the summer.
Okay.
So what we can do is we can create a whole part of this parallel biennial based on what we are doing here, right?
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
That would be fantastic because that way we open actually a platform because that's what they did. They have different platforms, different subjects, and also very wonderfully put on their website. So I can create for us a whole platform and give you also access so you update it outside of me. So this thing grows by its own. Like so you put down the history of your whole meetings, the syllabus, whatever. I mean, you deal with it.
Can I just say, we really do both believe in coincidences. I mean, it's through to the very notion of the platform, which was one of the key terms when we first started a month ago or so. I think this is now happening. If we just both agree that, or all agree that this is now happening, I think it's fantastically generous of us. We'll try and return the generosity in input and activity. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I'm going to talk with them, with the curators now, to see because they want that somehow this also becomes real, right? Because what we is theoretically real, for this completely real, but for them it's real if it's part of their thing, right? So maybe we find some way that somehow they host us there in Berlin in the official context.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, we can start talking about how to introduce this to the. I'll send you all the material now. We think and we play with it.
Let's do that. I mean, if you're traveling, tell me when you're around or when you're more available, but I think that sounds like a wonderful idea.
Yeah,
Talking-
I'm always available. I mean, availability for me is a duty, so.
Let's work something out. Can I just, sorry, this is coincidental, but in terms of like coincidences, a colleague of mine is Gilda Williams, who remembers you very fondly, who said, I can't believe you're talking to Miltos and I can't make it. Who then in return, I'll send you this, sent me a picture of her study with a very small artwork of yours from 1994 above her desk, which is impossible to look at on the screen image. So it's one of these really forlorn. So there is also that story in the background. I thought, because she asked me to say hello, I'm here with.
Hello, great. Haven't seen her for years.
Yeah, there we go.
She's a lovely woman. Give her all my love. And,
I'll see her tomorrow. I certainly will do, absolutely.
yes, please. Thank you so much.
Miltos, thank you for your generosity and for your spirit. It's the best way I can describe it. Let's do this. Keep me posted, but also tell me or us what you need. You know what I mean? If there's anything we can usefully hand over to you as you're talking to these Berlin guys or for your own production. You know, this is live now. You know, it's in real time, whatever that is. Let's do this.
Yeah, okay, great. So, yeah, we continue. Like, the summer I'm going to be in Greece near the sea, but always with my cell phone and
Oh, there you go.
So, we can grow up this and working on this area. So I think this could be a nice platform, because from there we can concretize some sides of what we said and what you are doing, which I don't know, but I mean, I can learn about it as we are putting it
There we
on
go.
map, right?
Absolutely. Miltos, big thank you to Bogota, where I've never been. One of my favorite PhDs who's just finished is from Colombia. So maybe there's a pulling kind of materializing.
You are always welcome. It's a great place and we love it. So,
Sounds like it. Thank you. Listen, we're going to have to leave it here. I think we need to vacate the building. Thank you so much.
thank you guys, everybody.
And we speak very soon, yeah?
Okay.
Take care, Miltos. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Great. I do think I met him in 93 at Brera in Milan, but I made this up. When he was there and I was there, so we coexisted in the same space. And there is, and I'm saying this not because of the anecdote, but I think there's a real generational I think it's less odd for me to talk than it is for you guys. You know, because there is a generational belonging. I mean, I recognize a lot of this coming out of a certain early 1990s moment.
Yeah, I know that he was, at least in my memory, and he was always at the edge of the art world to a degree, and at that particular moment was pretty much in, and then now, of course, is out again. Kind of,
Yeah.
but interesting figure, early, one of those early guys.
But
Before
really
all
also-
the
And on the trickster edge of a lot of this, you know, kind of like there's a lot of noise. Oh, he did this thing for the Whitney Biennial, but he was never part of the biennial. But somebody kind of invented a piece that he could have made if only. It's a bit like this Berlin thing. But there's a,
But actually, the paintings are actually really great, I think. I mean, they're fabulous.
And there is a spirit in they are that, and there's a certain attitude. I like his attitude to this, and it's not like Cory Archangel, which comes a generation after. He made very similar works back in the kind of Super Mario sleeping, the airplane never taking off. You know, so kind of anti-game stuff, a bit earlier than Cory. But there's a deadpan kind of like to his, underpinned by all the conspiracy kind of world megalomania that he also has.
But as you say, there's different attitude towards making it.
Yeah.
Whatever that implies as a creative
It
process.
seems like impossible to stop.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like,
But
Yeah.
interesting, still then some things popped up that are really, really interesting, I think.
But you know what's also maybe interesting in terms of not to stop, I'm thinking how I wonder how much of this also comes out of a certain moment in, it's not about art education, but a certain way in which people identified as artists, you know, or made that claim onto being an artist in the early 90s, which I think is very different from now. It comes through very different, you know, funnels and filters and, you know, but this claim is kind of really generalist. I can talk about anything at all forever, you know what I mean? And nobody can really stop me. I mean, Liam does that, Liam Gillen does that, you know, kind of like Pareno, kind of Pierre Week. There's a whole bunch of people from that generation who at the very beginning of their self-identification as artists had that or claimed that license. You know, it's prefigured in some for the Goldsmith thing. It's prefigured in somebody like Michael Craig Martin, and the way he talks about art, which comes out of a slightly different moment, and then it resonates through this whole next generation. It's really interesting. I mean, it's very different from, I think, even though Michael Archer, I think, is very close to that ethos, I think how that happens to you guys now is different because it happens under different conditions also. But actually, Michael is very close to that. I mean, Michael would say that in a way the ethos of the program here, for instance, is very close to this self-granted license, you know, kind of to claim that license of becoming an artist or understanding this investment. So. Wonderful. Guys, I'm completely wasted. I had 3 days of PhD presentation. We've got Tom Mitchell tomorrow, so thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. We'll try and we'll archive these multiple versions of this, you know, and we'll certainly keep you posted. Need to work out how, but we'll, as this shapes up, I mean, we want to keep it as not public in the big sense, but as open and permeable as possible, right? So we'll find ways of keeping communicating. Something else happens also what happens to this project. And it's in a way self-selecting who wants to join, who wants to contribute, who doesn't. You know, so I think it'll carry on as a vehicle under those terms for quite a bit longer.
what is the actual project? What is it? I'm just here.
I thought we could get away without that question. No, it's a really good question. I mean, like, the anecdotal version is Verena Verena's worked on and with and in animation for a long time, and there was a moment when that overlapped. I mean, she's taught here, did her level 2 here, and is doing that. And there were 2 or 3 conference moments. Suddenly Verena comes back and like, look, I bumped into Esther Leslie and had this fantastic conversation, and Anza and Franke, and we had this, isn't that something we can do? And I said, I don't know, but let's try it. And in a way that then became, so what is it? It's a series of...
Was it like that?
That's my version. Of
Yeah.
Very different.
Nice.
You know, and I mean, this is, and it was like, talking of coincidence, it was a moment I thought, like, look, I've been here long enough, I can mobilize some support for this, and then with Bergberg put some funding bid in for, I think it's officially described as a research cluster, you know, kind of combining different approaches to animation to see whether that is a field, whether the conversations overlap, whether there's a shared interest, you know, is a field of research that's only just coming into being, but needs to be taken seriously.
Kind of also network thought as an international network in the future. So this research, this first little money we've got, was this Chase fund or is?
Chase is like it's like the AHRC's kind of academic state funding body who give research monies.
And they gave us that as a networking fund. So in having the vision of doing something in larger grant application from within that.
And so what they financed technically was a kind of 2-day conference or so, you know. So we had money to invite somebody in and spend a bit of money on food, and then we couldn't get the person for that event, and then Richard generously gave some more money from the art department. So it became this odd thing where we had 2 days in May, which was super interesting, very poorly attended, but became almost like research sessions, you know, kind of what do we want to do here and why and who with. And then we're just now pulling in people in favor. So Miltos, I was talking to Miltos, we didn't have a Skype connection on the day in May, so I scheduled this now. Tom Mitchell tomorrow, whom I tried to invite on different terms before, suddenly was coming through Tom and said, look, that makes sense in view of animation, so he's fantastic. Have a chance to come tomorrow afternoon for 6 to 8 for the lecture, it'd be great. And he's doing a seminar for the PhDs across departments in the afternoon. So it's both as an attempt to really open out this notion of animation or the animate.
Exactly.
But it's also, I think, like most of these, and it's not giving anything away, like most of these academic situations, it's an opportunity to do stuff. So you go like, look, this is one thing we're putting out there, but it also allowed, if I ever did speak, I haven't spoken to this guy in 20 plus years or so, and it came back, I thought, one day you'll do something. You know, you have this kind of tick list of people in the background where you think, you know what, one day I'll read that book, or one day I'll finally try this app I downloaded like 3 months ago, or, you know, I'll finally continue this conversation we never quite finished.
But also we have to say that there are 3 or 4 other people for the autumn already who have confirmed, like Malibu, Catherine Malibu, Mark Leckie, and possibly doing something.
So we're really putting this together. It's nice. I mean, people recognize that there's something. I mean, Catherine Malibu is a philosopher, or is a neurophilosopher, as it were, comes out of Derrida, super interesting. And I'm sure she recognizes something very different in it from what Mark might recognize, or what Miltos thought this might be about, you know, if he bothered thinking about that. But, you know, that it's a performative fiction. You put the term out, and then things coalesce around the term. That's also a way of producing stuff, I think. So it'll, de facto, we'll have a few more of these smaller sessions. We'll probably have some more high-profile or more visible lectures. And we just call it Animate Assembly, and this is number 3, tomorrow's number 4. You know, if you name something, you number it, you know, it becomes a beast.
It's also interesting because all what we had so far are also very different, different formats, although they operate as one format, but they are, every session is quite totally different. Diverse and
And that's, I mean, what I liked about today, I mean, irrespective of the content, was the way in which there was a moment where I felt like, where's this going? You know, is this can you ever pull this back or not? And then suddenly these kind of mad things come in. You go like, yeah, this is exactly what we should be trying to think or so. You know, and I also like that because, I mean, he wasn't briefed. You know what I mean? He kind of got the invitation, seemed to make sense to him. I sent him a blurb. And then we started emailing that the Skype wasn't working 5 minutes to 5.
You know, don't forget, he's also really an artist and not a theoretician. And also how we often work is to think about, well, there must be this, you know, this being used to this kind of conceptually typed thing or being so exposed to that all the time, and how when artists then come in, it's often really a different horizon again. Shall we go? Shall we leave?
Yeah.
I have
Guys, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Um,